Hey there, kids. This is chapter 26 of the Oddmire, Book 1, The Changeling. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Tin's third matchstick finally burst to life. One left, he breathed. We're getting out of here, said Cole. He could see the despair in his brother's eyes. We're only getting deeper, said Tin. Cole pulled out his pocket knife. I promise. And with all his strength, he carved at the vines. They bowed and swayed under the pressure, but he might as well have been trying to carve through iron chains. Tin sighed. The matchstick was already nearly spent. Cole pressed the blade with a huff and stuffed the knife back into his pocket. He picked up a long bone. It was as thick as his wrist and ended in a knobbly Y at the end. He pushed the bone against the branches as hard as he could, and in response, the wall pressed back a foot or so, forming a shallow alcove. Cole shoved the bone against the ground to wedge it in place when he let go. It held its position. Huh, said Cole. So they couldn't cut their way out of the vines, but maybe they could push them aside. Tin hastened to help, picking out more strong bones with his free hand to pass to his brother, propping bones in place one by one, and Cole gained another 2 feet. Then 3 feet, 4 feet, painstakingly, they were leaving the brambles' sinister path and forging their own. For the first time since Candlebeard had left them there, Tin felt actual hope, and then the matchstick faded out. Scratch, scratch. While Tin tried furiously to get the final match to ignite, Cole groped blindly for another sturdy bone to brace against the barbs. His fingers sifted through thin, fragile, fragmented remains until they wrapped around something soft and waxy. It was small enough to fit in his palm, and he was about to toss it aside when the match beside him finally caught. Tin tucked the matchbox away and protected the flame with his hand. He glanced around. The path the bramble wanted them to take appeared much wider and taller than their makeshift tunnel by the light of their final match. It looked downright inviting, if it weren't for the carpet of bones that lined it. Tin shuddered. He looked at Cole. Cole was looking at the object in his hand. It was pale and pearly, but it was not another bone. It was a candle stub. The two of them stared for a moment, and then the match fluttered, and Tin tilted it to keep the paltry fire alive. Hold still, said Cole, and he leaned forward. The flame licked the candle's wick, but it would not catch. Come on, come on. They turned the candle this way and that, willing the wick to light, but it was no use. Soon the final match was nearly spent, its precious light wasted on the unwilling wick. The candle might as well have been made of stone for all the good it done them. Ugh, Cole growled. Forget it. It's not working. And he stuffed the candle stub in his pocket and stomped back to scan the floor for sturdy bones. It's our last match, said Tin. Cole? The light flickered. It dimmed. A pair of antlers was half buried in the gloom ahead of Cole, and he tugged on them, trying to free them with the other relics. Cole? Tin repeated, and then the light died. Once more, shrouded in darkness, Tin finally let himself cry. He could hear his brother working still, pulling at the antlers, wrestling with their thorny vines in the darkness. For once, Tin wanted to be the brave one. He wanted to save the day. He wanted to fix this. Tears fell hot on his cheeks. And just when he thought he could not possibly feel worse, an unnatural cold swept over him. This was worse than the wet Oddmire, worse than a winter wind. This cold was absolute. It crept all around him, soaked through him. The hairs along Tin's arms stood on end. The world was ice and darkness, punctuated only by hollow echoes. He could hear his own heart thudding. He could hear Cole panting and struggling right in front of him. And he could hear something moving through the bramble right behind them. And that's the end of chapter 26. And this is what chapter 27 looks like.